Hello, this is Joseph with English with Joseph. Today I want to talk to you about time. To ask what time it is, you say, "What time is it, please?" And the answer you get depends. There's various ways to speak about time. Okay. You know I love music. Yeah. One of my favorite songs is by Barbra Streisand. Barbra Streisand sings a song called Left in the Dark. In the song Left in the Dark, Barbara talks about time. She tells us it's 3:15. This is her big moment, okay? It's 3:15 in the morning time and her lover, husband, whoever, hasn't come home, okay? And she's lying in bed and she's complaining, it's 3:15. She does it very well. You really have to see the song. Barbra Streisand, Left in the Dark. Wonderful video clip. It was her first video, actually. Anyway, back to the subject of time. So, 3:15 is 2:45. Imagine the clock face, okay? The small hand is at 2, the large hand is at 12, it's 2 o'clock. When the clock moves to 2, it's 5 minutes past 2. 10 minutes past 2, 15 minutes past 2, as the hand turns, 20 past 2, 25 past 2, then half past 2. From there, the time starts to work towards the next hour. Okay, so it's 2:30. Then it is 25 minutes before 3. It's 20 minutes before 3. It's 2:45. It's 10 to 3, it's 5 to 3, and then it's 3 o'clock. Now, when Barbara was making this song, we have to remember that the way people used to tell the time, and still do, was with the clock face. They had a watch with an actual face on it, and the hand ticked, tick, 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 you know. These days, however, we have moved on, and to tell the time, often we don't look at a clock face, we look at a computer number. We no longer see the hand ticking. We no longer see 5 past 2, 10 past 2, 2:15. We see something quite different. And what we see is the same for the first part of the hour, because we can see 2:05, 2:10, 2:15, rather than saying a quarter past. Then we see 2:20, 2:25. But then it continues giving you the numbers past the hour and not looking forward to the next hour. What I mean by that is, I was telling you a moment ago, we have 5 past 2, 10 past 2, 20 past 2, 25 past 2. Okay, on a clock, whether it's a clock face or whether it's digital, you can see the time ticking past. Okay, but with an analog clock face, it starts looking towards the next hour. So you would say, oh, it's 20 minutes before 3. It's 2:45, as Barbara would say. But when you're using digital, what happens is it continues using past the hour rather than towards the hour. So digitally, what happens is it's 2:05, 2:10, 2:15, 2:20, 2:25, 2:30, and this is where it gets different. It's no longer 20 minutes before 3, it's 2:35, 35 minutes before, well, 35 minutes after 2, okay? Then it goes from there to 40 minutes after 2. So 2:45 becomes 2:45 because it's 45 minutes after 2. Okay, so ultimately, in conclusion, there are 2 ways you can tell the time. You can do it the analog way, like the clock face, where you count the numbers past the hour, then after the half hour, you count the numbers before the next hour. For example, is 10 past 2, it's half past 2, but it's 20 minutes before 3. It's a quarter to 3, as Barbara does, and she does it very well. You really have to look up that song. But the other way of doing it is by doing it the digital way, like it does on your computer, where it just ticks the minutes after each hour. It's 2:05, it's 2:10, it's 2:15, it's 2:20, it's 2:30, it's 2:35, which is the same as saying it's 25 minutes before 3. One is looking forward, and one is just ticking past the previous hour. Barbara didn't have the luxury of digital clocks, although I believe in the video it does actually show you a small early digital clock, which is stuck at the time of 2:45, but Barbara still calls it a quarter to 3, because a quarter, as you know, is 15. So that's why we call it a quarter. So let's go over this one more time, just to conclude. It's really not so complicated, okay? So, you have the clock face, if you can imagine 2 o'clock. You then have 5 minutes past 2, when the hand moves, 10 past 2. You then have 15 minutes past 2, which is quarter past 2, 20 past 2, 25 past 2, half past 2. Then you start looking towards the next hour. It's 20 minutes before 3, 25 minutes before 3, quarter to 3, which is the same as 15 minutes to 3. Then you have 10 minutes before 3, 10 to 3, and then you have 5 to 3, 5 minutes before 3. The digital way is something similar, but it shows differently on your computer. It shows as 2:05, 2:10, 2:15, 2:20, 2:30, 2:35, 2:40. A quarter to 3 is 2:45, 2:50 and 2:55. Now, you can just give those numbers. If someone asks you the time, you can say, oh, it's 2:45, it's 2:30, it's 2:20. But what is not common is to say, oh, it's 2:10. If you're speaking digitally, you wouldn't say, oh, it's 2:05. You would say it's 5 past 2, it's 10 past 2, and then you can continue with your digital way. Okay, it's 2:15, it's 2:20, it's 2:35, it's 2:45, it's 2:50. But the first 15 minutes, it's always better to say, using the old analog way, 5 past, 10 past. It just seems a bit strange for you to say, oh, it's 2:05. That's not the way we use the time in English, okay? So, to conclude then, between 2 and 3 o'clock, what time is it, please? It's 5 past 2. It's 10 past 2, it's 2:15. And then from then on, you can decide if you want to say 20 past 2, half past 2, quarter to 3, or if you want to say it's 2:15, 2:20, 2:30, 2:45, it's up to you. But the first 15 minutes always should be in analog. Okay, otherwise people will think you're strange. If you ask them the time and you say it's 2:05, they'll say, what? 2:05? What, your computer or something? Say it humanly, 5 past 2. Okay, so that's a very general introduction. But there is something else, and it's something Barbara doesn't teach us in Left in the Dark. And what that is 24-hour time. You've probably noticed on your iPad or your computer that sometimes, some of them, they show, for example, 2 o'clock as 14 hours. Strange, isn't it? That's called the 24-hour clock. Don't ask me where the 24-hour clock came from, I don't know. It's probably got something to do with shipping. But there is a version of clocks which show 0100, which is the equivalent of 1 a.m. 1400, which is the equivalent of 2 p.m. Now with a 24-hour clock, you don't ever use AM or PM, okay? You refer to it as it's 100 hours. It's 1400 hours. It's 1500 hours. It's 1600 hours. Okay. But to be honest with you, in general conversation in the English language, you're not ever going to be speaking that way. We don't use a 24-hour clock in any informal conversation. The 24-hour clock is something official that you might hear on the radio broadcast, you might hear in shipping, you might hear it in other references. Okay, but it's not something you should be thinking about, but it's important that you know it's there, because if your computer shows it's 1400 hours and someone asks you the time, you're not going to say, oh, 1400 hours. You're not going to say, oh, it's 1415. And you're not going to say, oh, it's 1430. That is, unless, of course, you get a job in the BBC World Service, in which case you might. Because if you listen to the BBC World Service, what you'll hear is, it's time for the news. It's 1500 hours UTC, which is universal time, which is not something you have to worry about right now. We're talking about general conversation and how to use time. Okay. So what have we learned today? Well, we've learned that Barbara is a very good singer and that she's taught us a lot about time. Okay. Getting back to her song, Left in the Dark, we know that she talks a lot about 2:45 because she's in bed waiting for her partner or her lover, whoever it is, and she's saying how it's 2:45 and it's morning time and she's waiting for him coming home. Okay, you really have to watch that video. It's very, very nice. But what she teaches us is at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., whatever, as time goes on, it's 2:05, 2:10, 2:15, 2:20, 2:25, and we're talking in minutes past, okay? 25 minutes past. But when it gets to 2:30, it then starts to work towards the following hour. So then it becomes 25 minutes to 3, 20 minutes to 3, 2:15, or 15 minutes before 3, whatever way you want to say it. And it continues. But as we discussed before, Barbara wasn't singing digitally. She was using her analog clock. And if she was singing digitally, if she was using a digital clock, she would have said, it's 2:45. But then it probably wouldn't have rhymed in the song, so I can see why she didn't do that. So, digitally, it would be, on the clock it would show 2:05, on the clock it would show 2:10, on the clock it would show 2:15. But as we discussed earlier, if someone asks you the time for the first 15 minutes, you would never say it's 2:05, it's 2:10. You would say it's 2:15, that's fine, the same as saying 2:15 if you're going to speak digitally, but for the first 15 minutes, it's 2:05, it's 2:10 is always the best way to do it. Okay. Well, I hope that's taught you something about telling the time. Thank you. Goodbye.